Hi there folks, and welcome to the first of a new series of videos I'll be doing. I'm Fond of Wisdom, your host into the magical world of Magic the Gathering, and today I'm going to be helping you new players out and making your first mono white decks and just general deck building strategies for all you folks who aren't quite familiar with the game. So let's get started. First off, we're going to head in here, we're going to choose our format. Today it's Standard. I'm used to Commander. I'm not a big fan of Standard. I don't know the meta, but that's not what I'm here to teach you anyways. So if you want that, you're going to have to look somewhere else. I'm sorry. One of the biggest things that you're going to need to learn in Magic the Gathering when you're trying to build a deck is what kind of deck do you want to build? Don't worry about what other people are doing, but stick to your keywords. In this case, white, we're good at, let's see, we're good at life gain, we're good at token production. So let's do both of those. So just on a basic search in here, and let's see, in Standard you get 60 cards, but that's not a maximum. You can put as many as you want in the deck. So as a basic rule, we'll just put in as many copies of each different card that we like the most into the deck as we can, and we'll pull them out later. So let's start off with our life gain friends. Healing Hawk, you got 1 cost early game, flying, lifelink, hard to block, always good. Throw out 4 of those. Hunted Witness, token production, and lifelink. Always fun. He's a tasty boy. So we'll put 4 of those in there too. A Johnny's Primate. Now he starts as a 2/2. He only costs 2. I mean, he's easy to get out, and the best part is every time you gain life, he gets a little better. He becomes a thick boy late game. So we'll throw 4 of him in there too. Daxos. Life gain for every one of your tokens when they come in, and nice fat thickness when nice fat thick toughness when late game comes around and you got plenty of that white devotion. Now he's a legendary creature, so you can only have 1 on the field at a time, but we'll throw 2 of him in the deck just for consistency's sake. Next up we got Impassioned Orator. Now, he has a similar ability to Daxos. Whenever somebody comes into play, you get to gain some life. So we'll throw a couple of him in there too. Ajani Strength of the Pride. Now, I haven't spent any money on this game, so I can't say that I have all the best cards in the world, but I'm going to assume that that's the same for you, which is why we're working on strategies and not necessarily decks on their own. But Ajani, he's got life gain for a +1. He makes an Ajani's Primate for a -2. And for a 0, you get a nice fat board wipe, and that's always good. So we'll put him in there. Let's see. Heliod. Whenever you gain life, somebody gets a +1/+1 counter. That's always nice. And Angel of Vitality. Little extra life every time you gain life. On top of that, she's a flyer. So we'll throw 4 of those in there. Another important thing you always want to make sure your decks have is draw power. Inspiring Commander, even though he comes in late game, and he's not exactly the biggest card in the world, he gives you your life gain, and he lets you draw a card whenever one of your tiny little tokens comes into play. So we'll pop him in there. Omen of the Sun gives you a couple of 1/1 tokens and gives you a little bit of life. Along with that, you can sacrifice it later on to scry. Helps you figure out what you're drawing next, so we'll throw those in there. Elsbeth, another token producer, another planeswalker. What's more to say on that one? And this card is one I definitely want to go over. The Birth of Meletis. I think that's how it's pronounced. I'm not entirely sure. But the nice things about this card, it gives you a basic land, it creates a token, and it gives you a little bit of life gain, so it helps even you out on every different front. So we'll definitely put as many copies of that as we can in here. Sadly, I only have 1 available. So that takes care of most of our life gain. But we want multiple themes in this deck, and I kept mentioning tokens, so let's go look for some of those. First off, we got a late game token producer. Nice fat one at that. Whenever you cast a creature spell, you get a 4/4 black zombie. Now, we're not running black in this deck, but you don't necessarily have to for her effect. And on top of that, every time she dies or gets exiled, you can put her right back into your library, which is always fun. So we'll throw her into the deck. Dawn of Hope, another great enchantment, gives you draw power, gives you tokens with lifelink on top of that. So, I mean, there's nothing to turn down there. Late game draw power is very important. Always keep that in mind no matter what colors you're building in. Now we're running pretty close to our 60 card limit here, and in Standard that's usually what you want to run around, so we'll try and stick to that as best as we can. We have our life gain, we have our tokens, our lands are basically taken care of for us, but there is one last thing that we're definitely missing, and that's always mana production. Now this will come more into play later on when you're building multicolor decks, but even in single color decks, a little bit of help with your mana never really hurts. So, the card we're going to come look for in here is, here it is, Altar of the Pantheon. Now what makes this card so great is that it helps your devotion out a little bit in every one of your colors. It's only a 3-drop, and on top of that, gives you mana when you tap it of any color you like, but if you control a god, Heliod here, or if you control a god like God Eternal or Ketra, I think it works with her anyways, and on top of that, demigods like Daxos, whenever you tap it, you also gain 1 life, so we're going to throw that in there as well. We got 4 cards left, but we're going to go, I know I said we'd stick to our limit. We're gonna go just a little bit over this time, because one thing we have forgotten this whole way through is the most important one, and that is removal. And luckily, white has no shortage of it. A lot of what you'll find in white is exile, and because I'm lazy, I'm just gonna search it up here. My favorite is Conclave Tribunal, especially since we're making tokens. The nice thing about it is it's a 4-drop, yes, and Banishing Light does the same thing, and it says it's cheaper, but you can tap your tokens to help pay for this, so in all technicality, if you got 4 creatures, you can play it for free without having to tap any of your lands, and that is always good. Sadly, for mono white, we're not given a ton of options, at least with the cards I have. But we do have a little bit of removal, destruction-wise, in Heliod's Intervention. In this one, you can gain some life, and or you can destroy a whole bunch of artifacts and enchantments, which is always good. And it's an X cost, so you can kind of decide how you want to use it when you play it. And, oh, Shatter the Sky. Always nice. But I'm getting a little distracted at this point. Let's see, we're at 63 cards. Let's cut this down a little bit. We got 8 cards that are all 1-drops. In late game, that's not going to help us out too much. So we'll take out a couple of these and a couple of these. Darn. Here we go. Another Planeswalker. Prevents all non-combat damage, that protects you from burn, and it lets you exile a creature with power 4 or greater. Planeswalkers are your friends, they have great abilities in most cases, and you want to have lots of them. So given our basic deck setup right here, we got 24 lands. It's a little more than a third, and that's what you usually want with your lands in any color deck. And we got a good mix of monocolors here, although it seems like a lot of my favorites tend to sit in the zone of 2, but that gives us good options late game, and there's nothing wrong with that. So now that we've shambled together this hideous monstrosity, let's go give it a test run and see how it plays. And as unprofessional as that may have been, that was the serious part of our video, so now we get to the real fun, waiting. Oh, maybe not. Okay, so let's see how we do. Now, as you can see in this starting hand, I start out with a couple of lands, which is nice, and it's some 2-drops, but not really anything I can play on turn 1, so we're going to mulligan this. Not really sure if that was a good idea now. But 4 lands, I mean, at least we're sure to play stuff later on, and I don't really want to go down to 5 cards at this point, so we'll toss back one of the lands because everything is pretty close to playable, and we'll just see where things go. Let's see, blue-green. Okay, so we're looking at control, +1/+1 counters, possibly some extra land plays, all kinds of fun. Get this Ajani's Primate out here nice and early as a blocker, and maybe a little early damage depending on what he does with it. Luckily in blue-green we do not have to worry a lot about destruction, just maybe a little bit of removal, return to our hand, that kind of stuff. And there's that extra land I mentioned earlier. Angel of Vitality, give us that extra life gain, assuming we ever actually hit any. And we'll go in and smack them for the 2 that we get for free. Oh, I guess I got him on the ropes. He's thinking hard. Okay, Uro, that's another extra land, so he's really jumping ahead on me on lands here, which is what you're going to see a lot in blue-green, and don't let it bother you too much. Just make sure that if you end up having removal, like Conclave Tribunal, that you hold on to it until you're really sure you want to use it. But we're going to get on our damage while we can. Now this is a pretty common strategy. You'll see a lot of Nisas out there. She lets all his lands tap for extra, and she turns them into chunky little creatures with vigilance and haste, which is always fun. This deck is actually one of the ones that you'll see pretty commonly in the current meta, which I'll tell you now I'm not the biggest fan of. But we're going to get rid of her now because I don't really feel like dealing with Nisa. But because I want to play both of my cards, we're going to use Ajani's Primate to help pay for this. And then we're going to throw down our Dawn of Hope, and hopefully we can start gaining some life and drawing some cards here pretty soon, because otherwise we're running on empty. It's not a big attacker, but it's nice to have something to defend with at least. Nice thing is, in getting rid of this Nisa, we not only cut down on the mana he can produce, but on the creatures he can produce as well. Although, personally, I would never suggest turning your lands into creatures, because board wipes tend to mess that up pretty well. 8/8 blue Kraken with Hexproof, so we can't get rid of that too easily. And he taps all our permanents next turn, and he can steal one on the third. So that's going to be a problem if we don't take care of it pretty early. Luckily, Heliod's a pretty chunky boy, and while he will definitely be the target for stealing, he at least gives us something to work with. Well, I will say, I guess I'm not making a particularly good teacher on this one, because it does not look particularly good for us. He's getting a lot of creatures on us, and it looks like he's going to end up taking control of my Heliod next turn if I was to take a guess.
But can you really trust me? God, you're fucking pathetic. Even if you wouldn't make any difference.
But maybe I'll get lucky and top deck some removal.
So there's no point in moaning and whining about who lives or who dies. It just...
Well, this is where consistency comes to bite you in the behind later on. Yeah, even he knows. So we're gonna have to give this one to him. Sadly. But we'll try again. Maybe we'll have better luck. Now this, in the Magic world, is what we call rubbing it in. He can kill me, but he's just not doing it for some reason. There we go.
Did you hear that, Mr. Let's all make it back? It's just
And that's a
bullshit.
loss for me. But we'll try again. One thing you're going to have to get used to in Magic, no matter how long you've played, and I've played for a long time, is you got to get used to losing. But with any luck, with enough practice, you'll be able to turn that around in the long term. But we'll give it one more go for this video, and we'll see how this one goes. And next time we'll try out a different color and see if things go over a little better for us. Admittedly, mono white is kind of a slow deck, so, and the current meta has things moving pretty quick. Now the reason I kept this one, we don't have a lot to play, but we started with some of our removal, and that is always nice to have available to us. Along with a little bit of our life gain here. So let's see, we're dealing with black, blue, and green it looks like. So he's going to have a lot of options, but mana control is going to be pretty important for him. And now that we got Angel of Vitality out, we can start gaining that life. And we'll get in our jab while we can. Now, Risen Reef will let him get extra lands every time an elemental comes into play, and I bet you he has another elemental at least in his hand. In fact, he might have a Nissa. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of that now before it becomes too much of a problem. Hopefully he doesn't throw down another one right now and make me look kind of stupid. I only got rid of my life gain, which isn't any fun. But that means he does not have that card for my God Eternal. And she is fantastic. Big old 3/6 double strike. So hopefully we can get him on the ropes here and cut that life down to size. Death Touch. Now that is a problem. But not for Conclave Tribunal, which is why I love it so much. And our God Eternal is going to give us another free 4/4 that we can work with. And we'll toss this down and get rid of the only thing standing in our way. Our opponent has seen the folly in his ways and thrown his body before us, and we have taken his life. But that was a little too easy, so I'll give you nice viewers one last game to actually play this out, because we haven't gotten past turn 4 so far, and that's not really all that fun. Okay. This is what an awful hand looks like. 1-drops, yeah. 4 lands for those 1-drops, heck yeah. Extra mana for these 2 1-drops, oh man, we could go all day. But we're going to be nice, and we're going to mulligan this for our opponent's sake. A little bit of removal, life gain, 1-drops, 1, 2, 3 on play for cards. Oh, this is nice. I like this hand. We'll toss back the Heliod's Intervention because, I mean, it's nice, but the X cost kind of messes with us right now. Green-blue, everybody. Welcome to the meta. but maybe we'll be able to get the drop on this one. Fingers crossed. Now I'm going to make a bet with all of you listening right now that at the end of my turn, or right now, he's going to play that card that lets him draw a card and play a land. Let's see if I'm right. Oh, so close. Oh no, sir, 1 damage, please, no. Get this Ajani's Pride Mate and we'll start pumping him up. Teach this mean man a lesson. And since our 1/1 comes back as another 1/1 with lifelink, we can just hurl him at the opponent as much as we want. Now, we don't have a whole lot we can work with right now, but luckily our Omen of the Sun gives us 2 1/1 creatures, which is an extra life gain a couple of times, which pumps up our Pride Mate, gives us some blockers, and if we don't draw land next turn, we can always scry for 1. But let's show him what the Pride Mate is worth. He's given up his draw power, which tells me he does not. He has plenty of options in his hand. Or, yeah, I'm just gonna leave that as my guess. Sorry for that one. Okay, so we got Zagana. So that means that we can take a guess that this is going to be an adapt-heavy deck. Now, for those of you who don't know, that works heavily with +1/+1 counters, is what you're going to deal with mostly in those kinds of decks. We're going to throw away our Omen of the Sun and see if we can find us a land for next turn. Love you, Inspiring Commander, but we can't use you right now. And we'll see if he throws away his Zagana to the Pride Mate. Nope. So, free hit for us. Okay, he's probably got some pretty pricey stuff in his hand if he's going out for more lands. Either that or he's trying to get Zagana's Adapt so he can get her to a 8/8. But we have all-powerful removal. So we get to do this and make him sad. Very sad, apparently. So that's 2 wins out of 3 games on our little dumpster white deck that we threw together, which is always nice. Tokens and healing, those are your keywords for this one. And the best part is that as long as you can think about what you want the deck to have and you know a couple of keywords of what to look for, realistically you can throw a deck together pretty much out of anything. Now this was mono white, and next time we'll come around with another color and we'll see how that one goes. But for now, this is your fabulous host, Fond of Wisdom, thanking you for coming and watching my first video, and I hope to see y'all again. Make sure to like and subscribe because that's what I'm supposed to say. Have a great night, folks.